Defense made a motion for a mistrial. Prosecutor was up to some fuckery. Potentially damaging evidence, no basis for it. The judge specifically said, do not ask that question. Do not use that as evidence. She walked right down the path and asked the question. It may be over on Tuesday morning. Batman Bruce Wayne bitch snitch. Gerald Brooks, your constitution does not apply to me because I'm a sovereign citizen, a traveler on the land. I'm the Moorish Empire or whatever, bitch snitch. Because they're so fucking absurd. If you want to be a sovereign citizen, just do yourself a favor first. Go to YouTube here and just get every sovereign citizen that's ever been before. Find me one that won. God dang, you're right. Don't go down this. It's not the path. Don't have time for stupidity. Some clever dick on the internet didn't find the great loophole in all of the world's law. Bitch snitch. God dang, you're right. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. God dang, you're right. Moorish Empire. Traveler on the land. Bitch snitch. Moorish Empire. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. Bitch snitch. Late evening U.S. people. Hey people, what's up? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whoever you are, wherever you are, whoever you're with, whatever you're doing, however good it feels, however many times you're going to do it. I don't care. I'm just glad you're doing it here with me. Legal Vices on this little old show that I like to call Legal Vices. Why am I late? Grounds. I've got none. I have zero legitimate reasons why I was 5 minutes late. The only thing I can do is throw myself upon the mercy of chat and just simply say I've had a couple of rough days at the office. Absolute balls to the wall work from dawn till dusk and just intensely brain power draining stuff. And I really needed a very good old fashioned cocktail. And I really needed to take my time and make it perfectly so that I could just enjoy. So, yeah, that's why I was late. I was crafting and concocting this wonderful old-fashioned cocktail that you see here before you now. It smells so good. I am sorry that I was late, but I just needed to make that, and I needed to take it slow, and I needed to make it right. Just, zen. I needed a zen cocktail. That's what I'm saying. So now I'm here. I apologize. I throw myself upon the mercy of you. And with that out of the way, hey, what's up, Ozzy? What's up, Flux? What's up, everybody? Meat Popsicle. Hey, how you doing? I know it's unacceptable, but hey, no regrets. I've got no regrets. Did you smoke it? No. If I would have smoked the old fashioned, it would have taken much longer than it did to make. I just needed to, go through the whole zen process of making the cocktail. All right. All right, we've got 168 people here, 77 likes. What we're doing today is we are doing part 2 of the Virgilio Aguilar Mendez federal lawsuit against St. Johns County and the 4 officers that were involved in his illegal stop, his illegal search, his illegal detention, his illegal choking, his illegal tasing 6 times in the spine. All of this was illegal, and charges were dropped. He spent a long time, 10 months in detention before the charges were dropped. And he's filed a lawsuit against, hey, what's up, Steven? Steve Gosney's here. Steve Gosney, how you doing, brother? Old-fashioned, been watching Mad Men. Drink of choice for John. It's a drink of choice for all right-thinking people. It's a classic. It's a standard. And for those of you that missed it, Steve Gosney's book launch was the other day. I had a chance to step in there for a few minutes until my Wi-Fi in the office crapped out because everybody came back from lunch and a bunch of people plugged into it and just killed it. Oh my gosh. Well, it smells so good. I'm already restored by the just by the scent of the old fashioned. Anyway, as I was saying, we're doing part 2 of this lawsuit. We did part 1 last week. So if you haven't seen part 1, you can go back and watch it after this. It's not essential. It's not essential to have listened to the first part to listen to the second part. We didn't get too far through the main parts of the lawsuit, through the main counts. We got a lot of background information. We went over the body cam footage again. And then we got through a few counts. So we're going to pick up where we left off and read through it, comment as I see fit. And we'll engage. This is one of the I love doing these, but these are also reading heavy days are kind of my least favorite days here because I have to focus on reading the documents and I don't get to focus a lot in chat. I'll do what I can. I'll do what I can to pay attention to chat as much as possible and highlight some of the comments that I think are relevant, interesting, funny, whatnot. Just the ones that tickle my fancy and I just happen to catch. If there's something really super important that you definitely want to say, if there's a question you definitely want to address, super chats are the way to do that because they come up in big bright colors and I see them, and they're also automatically starred so that I don't miss them. So super chats are not required, not begged for, except for on F-It Friday. But they are graciously and gratefully accepted. The first $100 worth of super chats, memberships, whatever that comes in, that unlocks the emotional support Potato Pig Dog Cam. And 200 gets a shot of really bad Korean whiskey. And we haven't decided what the $300 level gets because we haven't got that far yet. So we'll see. Both of the dogs are here. Yoda is next to me, and Strawberry has assumed her position on the veranda chair. So if we get to the unleash the potato, the emotional support Potato Pig Dog Cam, then you can feast your squinty eyes on them. And otherwise, hey, thanks. I'll do my best to catch the deals. And if make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, do all the YouTubey things. If you are subscribed, double check, make sure you are, and take our like and subscribe poll today. This is more of a serious note. Today. If you go over here to our poll, it says like, subscribe, and vote. Should Mendez sue the estate of the deceased police officer? Because he sued St. Johns County, a couple of other officers, and what was that? All right. My camera just glitched on me. We're still stable. That's good. Dogs aren't munching on anything. Nobody's touched anything. All right, we're cool. All right, so he is suing the St. Johns County, a couple of other law enforcement officers, and the estate of the officer that dropped dead several minutes after the arrest was completed. Which means if he wins, he takes money from the family of the deceased police officer. So the question there is, should he be allowed, should he sue the estate of the deceased cop? No, because he shouldn't sue anybody. 2, no, it's not fair to the cop's family. And 3, yes, dead or alive, the cop must pay. And here is my cold-hearted, snaky, just opinion. My choice, if I could vote in my own poll, would be yes, dead or alive, the cop must pay. If the cop is alive and you sue and you get a judgment against him, it takes money away from the family. If he's dead and he's shown to be liable, it takes money away from the family. One way or the other, I think he's entitled to sue and win, in this case, against the now deceased officer's estate. That's my take. So that's where I'm coming from. So we'll check in an hour or so and see what you all think. And before we dive into this, because we got a lot of ground to cover, we'll give a very brief review of the counts we've looked at so far, and then we'll go into the new stuff. Silent PS says, why doesn't Vices have a trilby? I have zero clue what a trilby is, so I would need to know what one is before I get one. And it's a narrow brim type of hat. Oh, it's basically like an old. I do. It looks sort of like a Panama hat, or a kind of a fedora, like a short brimmed fedora. Trilby is usually worn on the back of someone's head. Okay, well maybe I have one. No, I have. It says narrow brimmed. I don't have a narrow. Okay. Oh, it's a Leonard Cohen hat. Okay. Leonard Cohen wears a trilby. I have one very close to it. Perhaps I shall wear that next. All right. I have just learned a hat word. Oh, Frank Sinatra. Okay. So I would call the hat that Frank Sinatra was wearing like a Panama hat. But all right. Inspector Clouseau had a trilby, a Herbert Johnson trilby. All right. So now I'm Inspector Gadget wears a trilby. All right. Okay, fine. Yeah. I'll say I've got one. But that would be a lie. I'll show you what I'm talking about maybe tomorrow if I can remember. Thank you so much for broadening my horizon, Silent PS. And also, Marv White with the first $5 super chat out of the gate tonight, unlocking of the potato cam, the emotional support potato pig dog cam. Has anyone touched on the possibility Copper was already suffering from cardiac stress, causing his not so smart decisions that evening? Well, no one in the police department is touching on that, but of course that's the main gist here. The dude was a waiting time. His ticker was literally a ticking time bomb, waiting to go off, and that's when it happened to go off. If you go back and watch the video camera footage, he's winded from the beginning. He's not in a good way right from the get-go. All righty. That's deeply appreciated. Thank you very much, Marv, for sending that. Let's get into this. That we've beat around the bush long enough. I'm gonna take a much deserved and needed drink from my delicious, amazing old-fashioned cocktail first. Oh, I love me. I'm so good to myself. We get along so well. That brings me happiness. All right. To infinity and beyond. Let's go. Bring up the oldie screen that we need to be bringing on up. Bring it on up to the east side. There we go. Boop. Embiggen. Let's see. Where are we gonna stash me? Can we get any embiggen than that? I think if we embiggen any more, yeah, it's gonna cover up the edge. Unless we do this. There we go. If we pull it all the way over here, then we can embiggen it like this. But then you don't get to see my handsome mug. Well, you don't get to see my handsome mug if I do that either. Yeah, don't like it. Definitely don't like that. All right. Huh. Look at me just being all vain. Not that anybody asked to see my dumb mug, but it looks like that's slightly larger, and we'll just go. We'll play it normal. I'll stop screwing around. All right, let's embiggenate as much as we can. I think we can do a little bit more if we stretch this out and slide this on over. Ooh, that's just barely keeping it in. All right. Count one
we've talked about. We reviewed the count 1, which is a violation of his Fourth Amendment, unconstitutional search and seizure under the Civil Rights Act. So this is the officer who was now deceased. He's been claimed against in his official and individual capacity, Sergeant Michael Kunovich, for violation of Fourth Amendment rights, the unconstitutional search and seizure under this section of the Civil Rights Act, and others. We laid out the grounds for that. Count 2 is against, you can see here, Sergeant Michael Kunovich, the deceased, in his individual capacity, Gavin Higgins in his individual capacity, and the other officer, Deputy George Montgomery, in his individual capacity, for violation of the Fourth Amendment rights, protecting Aguilar Mendez against false arrest or imprisonment under the various sections of the Civil Rights Act listed here. So that's the second charge that we discussed. Count 3 is the violation of the Fourth Amendment, excessive force. He was choked in violation of the sheriff's office policy. He was kneed several times, punched several times, and he was tased 6 times in the area of his kidneys and spine. So they were saying that's unconstitutional, excessive force. And that's against Sergeant Michael Kunovich, Detective Gavin Higgins, and Deputy George Montgomery. We also did count 4, battery. Again, they're it says right here. Sergeant Kunovich, Deputy Higgins, Deputy Montgomery committed acts intended to cause harmful or offensive contact with Aguilar Mendez, or causing Aguilar Mendez to be in imminent apprehension of such contact. Yeah, I would say they intended and engaged in harmful or offensive contact and put him in imminent apprehension of such contact. So that's also against Michael Kunovich, Deputy Gavin Higgins, and Deputy George Montgomery. We're coming up on where we left off. All right. Wait, what happened to count 5? Where'd count 5 go? Was that count 5? Aha, count 5. Violation of the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause. That is a very interesting argument. One that is actually quite lengthy to get into, but if you want to go back and watch that is I find it to be one of the most fascinating and most interesting arguments in the entire complaint. And we did that towards the end of last week's stream. So this is where we're picking it up. We're picking it up today at count 6. All right, let's see what's going on over here in chat while I was sorting all of that out. All right, let's see. All right. Looks like normal chat is going on. Okay. Count 6. Violation of the 14th Amendment. Monell liability. I am not familiar with this, so let's learn together, shall we? Aguilar Mendez realleges the allegations set forth in paragraphs 8 through 112 and 66 to 173 above, as though fully alleged herein. That's just some standard wording that goes into these just as a matter of course. Sheriff Hardwick. Oh, let's see who this is against. This is against St. Johns County and against Sheriff Robert Hardwick in his official capacity as sheriff. Astral Nomad, hey Jeff, hey Astral Nomad. And Steve Gosney says, right now they are suing the estate. The estate gets something like $250,000 if the officer died apprehending a criminal, but like only $25K if he just dies on the job. Number may be off, but close. Interesting. That would be something to consider. If he dies while apprehending, he gets that. If not, he just gets a gee, we're sorry your guy died on the job chat compensation. Interesting. Thanks for the insight there, Steve. Aguilar Mendez is okay, we did all that. Let's get down to Sheriff Hardwick, while acting in his official capacity and under color of state law, caused Aguilar Mendez's 14th Amendment rights to be violated by establishing several policies or customs. Okay, I guess they're going to argue, we'll see if I'm right, that just Sheriff Hardwick making these policies, just by default, their 14th Amendment violations, because the policies themselves are unconstitutional. Sheriff Hardwick is the final policymaker for the SJCSO, that's the Sheriff's Office, the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, with regard to establishing policies, customs, and training programs governing the conduct of what's called Sheriff's Office, governing the conduct of Sheriff's Office officers performing policing functions on behalf of the county. St. Johns County and Sheriff Hardwick are the persons. They have persons in parentheses because St. Johns County is considered to be what is called a juridical person, a legal person. Corporations, counties, things, they can have the characteristics of personhood for the purpose of debts, liabilities, obligations, lawsuits, things like that. The Sheriff's Office, within the meaning of the Civil Rights Act, so the Sheriff's Office receives federal financial assistance through St. Johns County. The county finances the Sheriff's Office. All right, Steve has sent me this. Let me see here. Gotta go back. Catch up on that. Scroll there and we'll 112.19. All right. Okay. Oh, it's the compensation provisions. All right. Let me continue checking this out here. All right. We'll look at that. I'll leave that open and we'll bring that up a little bit later for the it's the compensation provisions for officers who die. It's their death benefits. We'll look at their death benefits at the end. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. Flux says the county should pay out the ass. I think it would probably be more helpful if they paid out of the bank account, but whatever. To each their own, I suppose. All right. The Sheriff's Office receives federal financial assistance through St. Johns County and is bound to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act. Now, Sheriff Hardwick enacted Policy 81.13 regarding limited English proficiency. Do they have that? Because it's quoted up above. All right. Is this it? Nope. All right, let me go back up here and find this provision because it is pretty interesting. Is that it? Dagnabbit. I think it might be the biasing policy here. Anywho, all right. Never mind. I was trying to be helpful. It's not going to be useful this time around. So anyway, sorry about that. Sheriff Hardwick enacted Policy 81.13 regarding limited English proficiency. Aguilar Mendez has limited English proficiency. He is qualified to participate in or receive the benefit of some of the Sheriff's Office services, programs, or activities pursuant to Sheriff's Office Policy 81.13 and other Sheriff's Office policies. Aguilar Mendez was excluded or denied the benefits of the Sheriff's Office services, programs, or activities, or was otherwise discriminated against by the Sheriff's Office. Well, let's see. The Sheriff's Office decision to exclude, deny, or discriminate was because of Aguilar Mendez's disability, limited English proficiency, coupled with his national origin. According to Sheriff's Office Policy 81.13, the office makes reasonable accommodations for limited English proficient persons by using language line services, which is a service available at any time of the year with interpreters and translators. They have something like that here in Korea. That if you go into, there's a special line you can call that will hook you up with all the emergency services. You can have the service in your own language. They'll find a translator that will translate between you and the emergency services. Taxis will have a number you can call that will connect you with someone who speaks, well, not someone who speaks various languages, but a central call station where people that speak various languages can help you communicate. So those are actually very, very useful, very, very helpful. The Language Line is an American company who provides on-demand, on-site language interpretation and document translation services worldwide for law enforcement, healthcare organizations, courts, schools, and businesses in over 240 languages. Wow. The Language Line is the largest interpretation service provider in the world. It has more than 28,000 clients, including the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. Aguilar Mendez repeatedly told Sergeant Kunovich that he did not understand English. Yes, he did. That is very, very clear and indisputable from the body cam. He repeatedly says he has no English. After the arrest, the sheriff's office also failed to give Aguilar Mendez a mom interpreter because, okay, again, for those of you that are joining that don't know, Aguilar Mendez is from Guatemala, from a small Mayan village. He speaks a very, very obscure Mayan dialect that's only spoken by about 500,000 people on Earth. It's called Mom. They didn't give him this mom interpreter at the station to allow him to understand his Miranda rights. The action departs from federal law, departs is a good way of saying violates. This action violates federal law, including guidance from the U.S. Department of Justice regarding limited English proficiency persons. Through the Civil Rights Division's long-standing work enforcing Title VI and the Safe Streets Act, we have seen what can happen when language barriers prevent accurate communication between law enforcement and the communities we serve. Well, we've seen it too. We watched the body cam. What can happen? What can happen when language barriers prevent accurate communication between law enforcement and the communities they serve is that a kid who's just sitting there talking to his mother on the phone while eating dinner outside of the hotel he's staying at can be set upon by 4 large police officers who throw him to the ground, will search him illegally, detain him illegally, then throw him to the ground, jump on him, put him in an illegal chokehold, you batter him around a bit, damn near break his wrist, tase him 6 times, knee him a few times, and rough up his arm a bit. That's what can happen if we don't prevent language barriers between law enforcement and communities they serve. We have seen that a failure to provide such meaningful access can chill reporting of crimes, leave victims and witnesses with limited English proficiency vulnerable to flawed investigations and even wrongful arrest. Gee, wow, flawed investigation and wrongful arrest are specifically stated in these guidelines here. Gee, it almost seems like it was written to prevent exactly what happened in this case and threaten the safety of officers and the general public alike. Without sufficient plans, procedures, and training in place to respond to the needs of the community members with limited English proficiency, law enforcement agencies struggle with a range of issues, including identifying whether a person is limited English proficient. Well, I don't think that was really in question in this case because he repeatedly said in Spanish and in English that he doesn't speak English. He said he doesn't speak it in 2 languages. Proceeding in English during interactions with individuals who have limited English proficiency, yes, that would be an issue that they faced in this case as well, that he's having English commands shouted and screamed at him, all while being roughed up and tased and choked. As soon as he got, and he doesn't speak Spanish that well either, by the way. Apparently he understands more than he speaks. You know, and he responded fairly quickly, almost instantaneously, to some of the Spanish language commands, which didn't seem to have much effect on him when they were being screamed at him in English for extended periods. And this another issue that can arise from this language barrier is improperly crediting English-speaking witnesses' accounts over those of individuals with limited English proficiency. Oh my Lord, I see that all the time. I mean, not necessarily in this context or in eyewitness accounts or criminal matters, but as someone who has lived abroad for essentially the last 35 and a half years, you'll see the native English speakers think that that Koreans, or it's just where I am, Koreans, or anyone that, if you're in China, the Chinese, or if you're in Japan, the Japanese, there's a certain group of native English speakers that tend to think that the native people are stupid, they're not believable, they're dumb because they don't understand English. Why should they? And I'll give you a clue. The natives think that you're stupid because you're in their country and not speaking English. But I've seen that where it's, the foreigners will tend to believe the other foreigners. The English speakers will tend to believe the other English teachers, and the English teachers. Yeah, it's most of the foreigners here are English teachers. They will tend to believe that all English speakers are better and more trustworthy than the non-English speakers. So this is a real phenomenon. It's a real thing. Relying on unqualified staff, bystanders, family members, or automated / electronic applications for language assistant. Those are good. The automatic or electronic applications on phones, they're good to a certain extent. But when they're right, they're fantastic. But when they're not correct, they can actually say exactly the opposite of what you want them to say. And a good example of that is Korea uses, not only do they use double negatives a lot, but also how they answer negative questions. And what I mean by negative question is, you didn't do that, did you? It's like you didn't go to McDonald's yesterday, did you? They answer it differently than we would answer that question in America. And depending on how that translates on an electronic or even a real live human being translator, depending how that is translated, they can give exactly the opposite meaning. And again, just follow on that example. If let's say you did not go to McDonald's yesterday, and you happen to live in the States. I don't know how the European countries or other countries handle negative questions, but in the States, we would respond, no. If you didn't go to McDonald's and someone said, you didn't go to McDonald's yesterday, did you? You'd say no. Again, because you didn't go. Well, in Korea, they're not answering the results of the question. They're addressing the actual question itself. They're confirming that you're understanding. Because when you ask the negative question, you didn't go to McDonald's, I'm asking you to confirm what I'm saying. And so we say, no, I didn't go. Koreans will answer it the opposite way. They will say yes, because they're answering your question, not the answer you want. They're actually answering the actual question. So you would ask a Korean, you didn't go to McDonald's yesterday, did you? They will say yes. Yes, you're correct. I didn't go. So and how that's translated can mean you didn't murder that person? Which no, in America, but here they'd say, yeah, you're right. I didn't murder that person. So if you get some language application, a cop comes up to a Korean guy that's sitting there with you didn't murder your wife, did you? And he says, yes. The officer go, oh my God, you're under arrest for murder. When he was literally saying, yes, you're correct. I didn't murder her. Just a little thing so you can see how it's important that you actually have someone who can interpret rather than translating. Direct translating doesn't work a lot of times. Interpreting is an art. All right, to continue. Another thing that can happen is providing important documents such as citations only in English. Yeah, that can be a problem if you don't understand English. Now, a true and correct copy of the guidance from the U.S. Department of Justice is attached here as Exhibit E. We're going to have to stretch this just a little bit. There we go. Sergeant Kunovich knew there was a substantial likelihood that Aguilar Mendez would be unable to communicate effectively absent an interpretive aid from Mom, and ignored Aguilar Mendez's statutory rights and sheriff's office policies regarded limited English proficiency. In addition, the sheriff's office denied Aguilar Mendez with an interpreter for medical assistance regarding the injuries by Sergeant Kunovich, Deputy Higgins, and Deputy Montgomery from the incident on May 19th, 2023. Great. So they didn't give him an interpreter, so he couldn't ask for medical assistance, which apparently he needed. If anybody saw that wrist lock, and of course, Strawberry has found a plastic container. How you doing, buddy? And if you saw the video and you watched him be tased on his bare skin, tasers leave burn marks. I don't know if you've seen taser burn marks, but yeah, they leave some good second-degree burns. Sergeant Kunovich did not use the language line. Strawberry, you're going to get me in trouble here because you're going to chew on the plastic. I'm going to take it away from you. And then everybody's going to start screaming, "Justice for Strawberry! Justice for Strawberry!" All right, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Come on, Straubs. Here you go. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. And how about if I replace it with this chew toy? There you go. You're not happy that I replaced it with a chew toy. I'm sorry. I'll give it back to you at the end of class. All right, see, there you go. Go ahead, chat. Go ahead. Let me have it. I don't care. We're moving on. Before we move on, Wanderlust, Wanderdust, sorry, says this may be a crazy question, but having watched Zimmerman Trayvon case and stand your ground laws in Florida, is it different in case of Zimmerman and police officer for the law? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if the Gaussmeister saw it, or if he can provide any insight. I can't provide off the cuff insight into that question. It's a good question. It's very interesting, but I don't have the answer to it. In addition to policy 81.13, Aguilar Mendez was injured through Sheriff Hardwick's bias policing policy, which is unconstitutional on its face. That was one of the previous charges. It basically said we give citizens special care. And apparently because they said the magic word citizens, it doesn't apply to people that aren't citizens, which is a violation of the 14th Amendment. Sheriff Hardwick also has a custom. Customs are not good. You should always have policies. If something becomes a custom, you should reduce it to writing and make it a policy. Customs are vague and very, very unevenly enforced. Sheriff Hardwick also has a custom that allows sheriff's office officers to use an alleged crime area to serve as the sole basis of reasonable suspicion, which was what happened with Aguilar Mendez. Okay, so he has a custom that says, well, pretty much everybody in this area is a criminal. You're not in this area unless you're suspected of doing something. So it's sort of profile, not necessarily racial profiling, although I'm sure that figures into it. It seems to be more just like a geographical profiling. The wrong side of the tracks profiling. We have that in my little old hometown of Logan, Utah, where it's literally the tracks. Where if they're on the other, nobody's on the other side of the tracks because that's where they really, really, really want to be. They just kind of literally the wrong side of the tracks. So maybe that's something like that. Donuts been a custom for a long time then. I'm sure that's probably somewhere in policy. Must eat donuts. According to Sheriff Hardwick, Sergeant Kunovich's stop was justified because we continue to have a high crime area of 16 and 95, should be off 16 and 95, where prostitution people I think we're missing a comma there. I'm sorry, that kind of stopped me in my tracks there. It's like, prostitution people. What? Okay, let's put a comma between prostitution and people, because prostitution people, we just call them prosies. They're just prostitutes. All right, let's put a comma between those. We continue to have a high crime area of 16 and 95 where prostitution, comma, people that are committing other crimes that are coming off of Interstate 95, comma, and other illegal drug activity in the area. Okay, that makes more sense. All right, so the comma makes all the difference. It's a high crime area of where we have a lot of deputy sheriffs that are responding to calls for service. Sheriff Hardwick needs some grammar assistance, but I think we got the idea. He doesn't like prostitution people, and they all hang around that area. People are coming off I-95 and other illegal drug use. I'm just suspecting that I-95 people exit there and they get their drugs and their prostitutes on that little section. So everybody in there is either a prostitute, a drug dealer, or a drug buyer, according to Sheriff Hardwick's custom. So you can profile people by being in that area. Well, that's not how that works. See First Cast News. St. Johns County Sheriff says deputy who died during fight with a suspect lawfully questioned him. Right. Well, yes, allow. And it brought it up in a different window. Let's read that article, shall we? So that we're all on the same page. Let me bring it on up. Copy, paste. All right. Oh, get rid of that screen. We don't need that screen before you leave. Check it out. I'm not leaving. All right. Take this down and put up the article that they're referring to here in the lawsuit. And embiggen it as much as porpoisable. No thanks. Watch live. Patrol Squadron 8 returning to NAS Jacksonville following 6-month deployment. Welcome back, peeps. All right, Jacksonville is still small. You can go away. St. Johns County Sheriff Robert Hardwick said Kunovich died from medical issues related to the struggle with a man. Right. Is this not going to let me embiggen it? Dagnabbit. Well, that's just making it worse, isn't it? Stop it, mother. I hate those silly pop-up things. That Kunovich died from medical issues related to a struggle with a man. Yeah, it's not letting us embiggen it. This is as much as we're going to get. All right. With a man he was questioning. So he died from medical issues related to the struggle with a man he was questioning. As the body cam footage will come out and show you, it was by the book, textbook legal aspect doing his job to the best of his abilities and duties, and all the suspect had to do was comply. I would say, having seen the body cam footage numerous times, that's a crock of horse shit. That is exactly what the body cam footage did not show. In fact, it showed quite the opposite. It was an absolute, not by the textbook, illegal stop and search. And all he had to do was comply. Well, all you had to do was have your officers not conduct an illegal stop, search, and arrest. That would have solved all the problems. Instead, the suspect chose to try to remove a knife from the left-hand pocket of his pants, and the struggle was on with Sergeant Michael Kunovich. Again, absolute horseshit. The video from the body cam footage clearly shows, not only does it show the stop was illegal, but the attempted search by the police officer was illegal. And he did not try to remove a knife from the left-hand pocket of his pants prior to the struggle. What happened was this kid who speaks zero English all of a sudden knows there's just an officer screaming and shouting questions at him and grabbing him by the arm. The officer tried to conduct a search of Aguilar Mendez. And what you will clearly see if you go back and watch the video at the beginning of last week's show, Aguilar Mendez's hand is on top of the police officer's hands, on top of Kunovich's hand. He was trying to stop the officer from reaching into his pocket where he had his room key, a giant wad of cash. Well, I mean, it was a nice stack of money that he was supposed to be sending to his family, and a folded, completely legal blade with a 1-inch blade. A 1-inch blade that's 2.24 centimeters for 2.54 centimeters for you peeps out there that don't use the imperial system. A 2.5 centimeter blade, a 1-inch blade that he uses for harvesting watermelons. So the officer tried to conduct an illegal search, and his hand is clearly on top of the officer's hand. So that is an absolute flat out lie. He did not try to remove any knife from his pocket before anything happened. And the struggle was on with Sergeant Michael Kunovich until the next deputy showed up 37 seconds later. Ultimately, Sergeant Michael Kunovich succumbed basically to some medical issues that actually were induced by the struggle with our subject, Hardwick added. Yeah, probably not. The sheriff's office arrested Virgilio Aguilar Mendez and charged him with felony murder. So Hardwick says Aguilar Mendez was trespassing at a permanently closed business, which in fact he was not. It was clearly demonstrated and clearly obvious that he was not trespassing at a permanently closed business. Guess what he was never charged with? He was never charged with trespassing. He was charged with other things, but not charged with trespassing. Sergeant Kunovich collapsed and died a short time after fighting with Aguilar Mendez. Hardwick says the sergeant's questioning of the man is justified. Well, no, the Constitution says otherwise. He says we continue to have a high crime area of 69 and 95 where prostitution. Okay, this appears to have been copied and pasted directly from this reporter. So I'll blame it. Maybe, well, I don't know. We'll blame it on the author here. Because the author seems to have gotten everything else wrong. We continue to have a high crime. We just read this. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says Aguilar Mendez was in the country illegally. Again, no, they didn't. Immigration and Customs Enforcement did not say he was in the country illegally. He'd attempted to enter illegally, was taken into custody, and then was released. We showed you the federal document. The document from the feds giving him the right to be released from the detention center and walk around freely and legally in the country pending the outcome of his immigration status hearing, which is scheduled for July. So even that's not right. Excuse me. All right, that's the article in question. That's the article that's being referred to in the document here. Let's see. What do we got going on here? Chat, you're being so well behaved. Normally I have to focus on chats to prevent you from going off the rails when we talk about things like this. MG Law is not a knife where I come from. It's not a knife really where anybody comes from. For those of you that have toenail clippers or fingernail clippers that have the little fold out file, those are actually longer than 1 inch. They're close to 1 inch. Those are actually about 1.25 inches. So just think if you have those fingernail clippers that have the little tiny file that comes out, that's about that size. The knife that he actually was not even threatening the police officers with. It's just a dead ass lie. Britt Cormier with the $10. Thank you so much. 1-inch blade is not even a knife in my humble opinion. I grew up on a farm and carrying around a 3-4-inch knife, folding or not, was normal. Even today, I do not leave my house without a 3-inch knife in my pocket. Well, got me my awesome little buck knife right here. It's just what guys do. God damn it. You just got your knife with you. That's just what you do. Thank you very much for pointing that out. That's not a knife. That's a knife kind of a thing. And anyway, we've beat that one to death. Let's move on. Thank you so much for the support. Deeply appreciated. We are now $85 away from unleashing the emotional support potato pig dog cam. Sniffles, yes, we investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoings. Cue up video. California police tried to hide of them venting a teenage hostage running to them for help. Oh my God, that video is horrific. Holy crap. I don't know if any of you have seen that. Some of you may have, some of you may not have. It was from 2 years ago, and it's just sort of starting to make the rounds today. Yikes. I mean, there was a hostage situation in a car. It's on a high-speed chase. They get him cornered. The cops are yelling at the passenger to get out of the vehicle. And she gets out of the vehicle. It's clearly she's the hostage. Clearly she's the one. And one of the officers is saying, come to me, come to me, come to me. And she's like very hesitantly kind of scurrying towards the officer. And then you just hear all the others go, bam, 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 and just ventilate. They just Swiss cheesed her because they said she looked like she was running at the police officer. When the police officer was calling her over, that was a horrific video. I was just watching that, just stunned. It's like, yeah, the cop is going, come here, come here, come here, come on over, come to me, come to me. And she does that. And like, oh, he's rushed, he's running at the cops. Bang, 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 dead. It was wild. Yikes. Yeah, it was, they just straight up murdered her. Just flat out murdered the girl. Yeah, that's yoink. That was, yeah. All right. On that cheerful note, let's get back to this. Okay, we read the article. Federal and state courts nationwide have repeatedly held that a high crime area, standing alone, is insufficient for reasonable suspicion. Thus, Sheriff Hardwick's policies are ripe with bias. Sheriff Hardwick's policies, customs, and training constitute the official policy of St. John's with regards to policing functions and were the moving force behind and caused I guess I better take another drink. And caused Aguilar Mendez's injuries. On or prior to May 19th, 2023, the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, with deliberate indifference to the rights of arrestees, detainees, and the like, tolerated, permitted, failed to correct, promoted, fostered, or ratified a number of customs, patterns, or practices that condoned and required officers to treat non-citizens differently than citizens. That's that bias policy we're talking about later. You give citizens certain protections that apparently under this policy and custom you don't have to give to non-citizens. The 14th Amendment doesn't like that. Sheriff Hardwick's policies, customs, and training are unconstitutional and establishes that the sheriff did serious harm to Aguilar Mendez. Sheriff Hardwick's customs or practices of deliberate indifference were so widespread that the sheriff had both actual and constructive knowledge of them, but did nothing to end them. As a direct and proximate cause of the acts and omissions described herein, Aguilar Mendez suffered humiliation, emotional distress, physical harm, loss of earnings, and general damages that resulted from being illegally stopped, searched, seized, and detained without justification, in an amount to be determined by the jury. Wherefore, plaintiff Virgilio Aguilar Mendez demands judgment against defendant St. Johns County, a political subdivision of the state of Florida, and Robert Hardwick, and respectfully requests the entry of an order awarding Aguilar Mendez with nominal compensatory and special damages, 2, reasonable attorney fees, 3, cost of the action, and 4, prejudgment interest, and 5, any such other further and different relief as the court deems appropriate. All of that sounds really, really good to me. All right, we are 75 away from emotional support, potato cam, pig dog cam, etc., etc. Thanks, folks. How are we doing over here in chat? We're coming up on the 1 hour mark. We'll read this next count, and then we'll do our midstream grift. Right, everybody's being calm and nice and rational and having a very good conversation in chat. I like when that happens. All right, thanks, peeps. You're awesome. All right, count 7. Violation of the 14th Amendment, canton liability. Oh, this sounds interesting. I don't know what canton liability is either. Interesting. Let's find out what it is. But anyway, this is also being brought against St. Johns County and Sheriff Robert Hardwick in his official capacity as sheriff. Oh, what are you burping for, you Straubs? You're just a little burper, aren't you? Aguilar Mendez realleges the allegations set forth in paragraphs 8 through 112 and paragraphs 181 through 183 above. And as though fully alleged herein, as though fully alleged herein, the sheriff's office failed to properly train or modify its training to Sergeant Kunovich and other sheriff's office officers, including but not limited to matters related to bias policing, the reasonable and appropriate use of force during arrests, intervention in the excessive use of force by fellow officers. That's a good one. I like that one. Intervention in the excessive use of force by fellow officers, and the need to train officers on language gaps. Effectuating an arrest, using force to effectuate an arrest, and intervening in the use of force is a usual and recurring situation with which the sheriff's office officers and other agents encounter on a regular basis. As such, the sheriff's office was aware of the need for more and different training. With deliberate indifference, the sheriff's office failed to provide adequate training to its officers on excessive force, the need to train officers on language gaps, and the need to train officers on bias policing. Tug Sim says, shouldn't they already be trained? Yeah, they should, but apparently they're not doing their job, so they should be retrained and taught what to do, because clearly they aren't doing what they should be doing. So, yep, they shouldn't have to be trained, but they clearly weren't, so they should be. The sheriff's office was aware that the deprivation of the constitutional rights of persons was likely to result from its lack of training. As such, the sheriff's office was deliberately indifferent and exhibited reckless disregard with respect to the potential violation of constitutional rights. The failure to train or to appropriately modify training constituted official sheriff's office policies, practices, or customs. The sheriff's office failure to train or to modify training was the moving force behind and caused by Aguilar Mendez injuries. Okay. Not unreasonable so far to be asserting that. Sheriff Hardwick's customs or practice of deliberate indifference were so widespread that the sheriff had both actual and constructive knowledge of them, but did nothing to end them. As direct and proximate results of the acts and omissions described herein, Aguilar Mendez suffered humiliation, emotional distress, physical harm, loss of earnings, and general damages that resulted from being illegally stopped, searched, seized, and detained without justification in an amount to be determined by the jury. Wherefore, plaintiff Virgilio Aguilar Mendez demands judgment against defendant St. Johns County, a political subdivision of the state of Florida, and Robert Hardwick, and respectfully requests the entry of an order awarding Aguilar Mendez with nominal compensatory and special damages, reasonable attorney's fees, costs of the action, and prejudgment interest, and any such other further and different relief as the court deems appropriate. All right, we're up to count 8 here. We've looks like we've got about 8 pages left, as a matter of fact. So here's a good spot. We're at exactly the 1 hour mark. So let's do a little bit of a mid-strift green. Midstream grift. That would be better than a what did I say, strift green? See, this is so good. It lasts an hour and it's still ice cold. All right, we have 331 concurrent viewers and 207 likes. That's really, really good, but we still need to get up to 300 likes. So everybody that hasn't hit that like button, reach on down there and smash it. Smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I would be deeply indebted to you and promise to provide you with entertaining and insightful commentary to the best of my ability. If you'll just hit that subscribe button, take a chance on me. Do it. You can do it. And if you don't like it, you never have to come back, but just leave the subscribe button on. And like this video. And if you have subscribed, just double check to make sure you are still subscribed. And let's look at our like and subscribe poll so far. Should Mendez sue the estate of the deceased cop? 14% of you. 14% of you say no, he shouldn't sue anybody. 26% of you, just over 1 in 4, say no, because it's not fair to the cop's family. And 60% of you, and I'm in this category, say yes, dead or alive, the cop must pay. Again, if he's alive and you sue him and win, you take money from the family. If he's dead and you sue the estate, you take money from the family. So either way, he's paying. And Steve Gosney sent us the Florida statutes regarding compensation for the death of a police officer. And we'll look at those at the end of the show here. I assume we'll have enough time to do that. Ah, good. Now we finally got the naysayers in chat. I was feeling lonely without the naysayers and the we shouldn't have come here. Well, he did, and the Constitution gives him most of the same rights that citizens have. That's why we're a great country. Me and B says, I think it's just not fair to the family. And then there's a little bit of a side wink there, so I'm not sure how serious you are. But again, I would argue if he's alive, he's still gonna, and he's found liable, he's still gonna take money away from the family. Bush says, legal vices share my DM and make them all jealous. Hey, Rose. What's up, Rose? How you doing? All right. That's enough of that. That's enough of the midstream grift. Do we have anything to read here? Oh, hey, Joe with a $10 super chat says, release the snoozers. They're not snoozers now. They're awakeners. They're a little bit awake. So where does that put us? Oh, got to do math now. Lawyer math. 10, 20. What? Wait, huh? All right. I thought there was more super chats there. Weird. All right. Well, it says we're 75 away from unleashing the pig dog cam. Huh. For some reason, I thought there was more super chats than that. Weird. All right. Sorry. just had to do some lawyer math and some double checking. All right. Sorry, I was reading chat. You guys are awesome. Okay. Hi, JKD Buck. You can have a hi too. Hi. All right. Count 8. Violation of the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment is getting a lot of attention today. Perhaps we need more 14th Amendment training. Stigma plus. All right. That obviously comes from somewhere. But again, not familiar with something called stigma plus. Okie dokie. Violation of the 14th Amendment, stigma plus. Aguilar Mendez realleges the allegations set forth in paragraph 8 through 112 and paragraphs 114 through 128 above, as though fully alleged herein. Sheriff Hardwick, okay, this is only against Sheriff Hardwick in his individual capacity as Sheriff Hardwick. I mean, as Hardwick, not Sheriff Hardwick. It's in his individual capacity, not his professional capacity. Sheriff Hardwick made public statements concerning Aguilar Mendez in a press release and press conference. In addition, Sheriff Hardwick gratuitously made numerous false and otherwise defamatory statements against Aguilar Mendez without any valid law enforcement purpose. The public response, which we're seeing a lot here in chat now because chat never fails, the public reasonably understood that each of these statements were about Aguilar Mendez. Each statement was false and defamatory. Last night, Sergeant Deputy Michael Kunovich was legally out with a person, Aguilar Mendez, that was at a permanently closed business in the area of 16 and 95. He checked out with him simply to say, hey, why are you in this property trespassing? That was a simple thing, simple task. But again, notice the question there. Why are you on this property trespassing? That assumes he was trespassing, and he was not trespassing. So that is a false premise to begin with. The second statement is the body camera footage will come out and show you it was by the book. Textbook legal. Do we have a buzzer? We can use the buzzer. It was textbook legal, doing his job to the best of his abilities. Can't buzz that because maybe those were the best of his abilities, but they sucked. And deputies and all the suspect Aguilar Mendez had to do was comply. Instead, the suspect chose to try to remove a knife. No. I want to be like the old guy in the wheelchair on Breaking Bad and have a little bell. He's got ding, 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 ding every time something pisses you off. He chose to remove a knife from his left-hand pocket of his pants, and a struggle was on. Absolutely not even close to what happened. Kunovich, until the next deputy showed up 37 seconds later. Sergeant Kunovich succumbed to some medical issues that were actually induced by the struggle with our subject. Well, again, Sheriff Hardwick knew or should have known that the statements which were defamatory as to Aguilar Mendez were false. Each of the statements were reasonably understood to mean that Aguilar Mendez had committed a crime, even though Sheriff Hardwick possessed no evidence that Aguilar Mendez committed the crime of trespassing. Yup. Sheriff Hardwick's statements garnered national media attention, all stemming from the so-called trespass at the abandoned building between the Super 8 motel and the gas station convenience store, which were repeatedly reposted on a variety of television networks and social media. Because of Sheriff Hardwick's false accusations, Aguilar Mendez has been villainized by the public, media, and some in Legal Vice's chat, destroying his reputation and labeled as a murderer. Sheriff Hardwick's statements were a substantial factor in causing Aguilar Mendez personal and professional harm, associated deprivations of his constitutional and statutory rights. On January 5, 2024, Aguilar Mendez made a written demand to Sheriff Hardwick via his government email address to retract his defamatory statements regarding Aguilar Mendez. Well, what do you think happened? Do you think Sheriff Hardwick withdrew those comments? A true and correct copy of the demand to retract is attached here to his Exhibit F. Sergeant Hardwick ignored the retraction demand. Ooh, that was a surprise, wasn't it? Shocking. He's got the shocker. On January 5, 2024, Aguilar Mendez also made a written demand to St. Johns County Board of Commissioners to Christian Whitehurst, Sarah S. Arnold, Roy Alaimo, Krista Joseph, and Henry Dean via their government email addresses to retract Sheriff Hardwick's defamatory statements, according to Aguilar Mendez. St. Johns County Board of County Commissioners ignored the retraction demand. Ooh, that's a surprise too, isn't it? That's a little bit of surprise. Sheriff Hardwick. Sheriff Hardwick acted with malice, oppression, and fraud. Among other things, Sheriff Hardwick knew or should have known that the statements about Aguilar Mendez were false and made them anyway in complete indifference to Aguilar Mendez's rights and at a time when Aguilar Mendez was most vulnerable. Aguilar Mendez has a liberty interest secured by the United States and Florida constitutions to his good name and reputations, which was taken from him without due process of law and in conjunction with other violations and deprivations of Aguilar Mendez's constitutional rights. Aguilar Mendez's injury to his reputation caused the denial of a federal protected right or was inflicted in connection with the deprivation of a federal protected right. Qualified immunity is unavailable to Sheriff Hardwick because he defamed Aguilar Mendez with malice in violation of Aguilar Mendez's 4th and 14th Amendment rights that were clearly established at the time of the challenged action, bound by the United States Supreme Court, the 11th Circuit, and or the Florida Supreme Court. As a direct and proximate result of the acts of the and omissions described herein, Aguilar Mendez suffered humiliation, emotional distress, physical harm, loss of earnings, and actual damages that resulted from being illegally stopped, illegally searched, and seized and detained without justification in an amount to be determined by the jury. Punitive damages are available against Sheriff Hardwick and are hereby claimed because they were reckless and or had callous indifference to the rights of Aguilar Mendez. Wherefore, plaintiff Virgilio Aguilar Mendez demands judgment against defendant Robert Hardwick and respectfully requests the entry of an order awarding Mendez with 1 nominal compensatory special and punitive damages, 2 reasonable attorney's fees, 3 cost of the action, 4 prejudgment interest, and 5 any such other further and different relief as the court deems appropriate. Count 9. Defamation. Sheriff Hardwick in his individual capacity. This should be interesting. Aguilar Mendez realleges the allegations set forth in paragraphs 8 through 112 and paragraphs 20 through 234 above as though fully alleged herein. Sheriff Hardwick is an employee of St. Johns County. St. Johns County is vicariously liable for the conduct of its employees. Vicarious liability means exactly that. St. John's can be held liable for the actions of their employees. Sort of like if Skippy, the minimum wage, I live off tips, Domino's pizza delivery guy, is delivering your pizza and he runs over a family member in the driveway and kills them. You can go after Skippy, the now unemployed pizza delivery driver who has zero money and probably some debts to his name, and get absolutely nothing from your lawsuit. Or through a theory of vicarious liability, Domino's Pizza can be held liable for the actions of their drivers. So if your choice is to sue Skippy, the now unemployed pizza delivery guy, or Domino's, who are you going to go after? You're going to go after Domino's because they have the deep pockets. And it's the theory of you control your employees. If your employer does something while acting in your name, you are held liable. That's what vicarious liability is. As a direct and proximate result of the acts and omissions described herein, Aguilar Mendez suffered humiliation, emotional distress, physical harm, loss of earnings, and actual damages that resulted from being illegally stopped, searched, seized, and detained without justification in an amount to be determined by the jury. Punitive damages are available against Sheriff Hardwick and are hereby claimed because they were reckless or had callous indifference to the rights of Aguilar Mendez. Wherefore, plaintiff Virgilio Aguilar Mendez demands judgment against defendant Robert A. Hardwick and respectfully requests an entry of an order awarding Aguilar Mendez with nominal compensatory special and punitive damages, reasonable attorney fees, cost of the action, prejudgment interest, and any such other further and different relief as the court deems appropriate. Count X, abuse of process, also against Sheriff Hardwick in his individual capacity. What are you doing? What are you doing? Well, there's Yoda knocking over one of my lights. Hang on. Did that scare you, little Yoda? All right. Wow, well, that's all right. Hang tight. Good job there, buddy. Good job. You are a special kind of idiot, Yoda. All right. Did you get scared? You got scared, huh? You got scared. All the little puppies got scared. All right, I'm back. Hello. How are we all doing? We got the lights back. That's a first. That's a first. Not sure how that happened. All right. Now I need a drink. Mean old Jeff's had obstacles around. The dogs are crazy today. Yeah, he totally is a bumblebutt. Right. Well. Yeah, wow, that's what I was thinking. Wow. What are y'all looking at me for? What are y'all looking at me for? I didn't do it. It was your stupid brother. All right. We're back. Sorry for that. Sorry for that little interlude there. Yeah. Jeff knocked it over and blamed the dog. It's like easily 1.5 meters away from me. Possibly. I don't think it's 2 meters away. It's about 1.5 meters. I'm much closer to this light than I am to this light. Okay. Just trying to create a mood. Yoda was upset how Mendez was treated. That's right. Boosh, justice for Yoda. Nah. Yoda just did a little oops, huh, Yoda? You just did a little oops, huh, dummy? All right. They're upset. More emotional support potatoes. Oh, yeah, I know. It's a doggo stream now. The takeover has begun. Well, we're still 75 away from that. Anyway, all right, let's get on with this. Sorry for that little breach. Yay, live streaming. See, people who edit their videos and just post them without live streaming, they miss all the fun stuff. That's half the damn fun. Why are you blaming Yoda for what you clearly did? Yeah. Thankfully, it's physically impossible for me to do that. All right. Abusive process. Against Sheriff Hardwick in his individual capacity. Aguilar Mendez realleges the allegations set forth in paragraphs 8 through 112 and paragraphs 220 through 227 above as though fully alleged herein. Sheriff Hardwick misused the legal machinery of Florida for an illegal, improper, or perverted use of process. Sheriff Hardwick had an ulterior motive or purpose in exercising the illegal, improper, and perverted process. In doing so, Sheriff Hardwick acted with malice and oppression against Aguilar Mendez. As a direct and proximate result, he just acted with malice and oppression against Aguilar Mendez. As a direct and proximate result of these acts and omissions described herein, Aguilar Mendez suffered humiliation, emotional distress, physical harm, loss of earnings, and actual damages that resulted from being illegally stopped, searched, seized, and detained without justification, in an amount to be determined by the jury. Punitive damages are available against Sergeant Hardwick and are hereby claimed because they were reckless and had callous indifference to the federally protected rights of Aguilar Mendez. Wherefore, plaintiff Virgilio Aguilar Mendez demands judgment against defendant Robert A. Hardwick and respectfully requests the entry of an order awarding Aguilar Mendez with nominal compensatory, special, and punitive damages, reasonable attorney fees, cost of the action, prejudgment interest, and any such other further and different relief as the court deems appropriate. And before we get into count 11, it's Island. What's up, Island? She's an island boy, Sorry, I'll never do that again, I swear. If it makes you feel better, my dog once knocked himself fully unconscious by running headfirst into a rock. That sounds like something my dogs would do. Sounded like a coconut falling in a cartoon. Wow, dang. Mustang guy says, so was he convicted that all charges were dropped against Aguilar Mendez. All charges were dropped. Because they never should have been brought in the first place. All right, on we thank you so much, Island, for that. Moving us ever closer to emotional support, pig dog, cam, potato. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. This is against Sheriff Hardwick in his individual capacity and Sergeant Michael Kunovich in his individual capacity. Aguilar Mendez realleges the allegations set forth in paragraphs 8 through 112 above as though fully alleged herein. Sheriff Hardwick and Sheriff Kunovich are/were employees of St. Johns County. Yep. And St. Johns County is vicariously liable for the conduct of its employees, which we just talked about. Sheriff Hardwick and Sergeant Kunovich's conduct was extreme, outrageous, and despicable. Good adjectives. Sheriff Hardwick and Sergeant Kunovich's conduct was outrageous. In doing these outrageous, extreme, and despicable behaviors, in doing so, Sheriff Hardwick and Sergeant Kunovich abused their positions of authority as members of the public law enforcement agency, which provided them with real power to affect Aguilar Mendez's interests. Sergeant Kunovich knew that he had zero reasonable suspicion to stop, seize, tase, beat, and effect an arrest against Aguilar Mendez. Karen D asks, where do we go here? Where did we go? Karen D asks a question. Karen D asks, chat, where is Mendez now? Aguilar Mendez now is, he's walking around on the streets because immediately after the charges were dropped, he was taken into the immigration detention system, and he was there for a couple of weeks, and he posted an immigration bond, I believe in the amount of $5,000. And he has been once more released to be legally out in public until his immigration status hearing comes up in July. So he is out there in the public legally, perfectly authorized by the federal government to be walking on the streets and doing whatever it is that he needs to do or wants to do. Which came first, dropping of the charges or federal lawsuit? That's a question for Steve Gosney. I believe the federal lawsuit was first. Yes, the federal lawsuit was first. There you go. What happens if he is deported before the civil case is over? The civil case can go on perfectly well without him. He gives his lawyer a power of attorney to act on his behalf, and that's it. You can leave the country. I mean, it's very, very common. I do a lot of my clients aren't in the country and they're involved in civil lawsuits, and vice versa. A lot of people that are here, they get involved in civil lawsuits and then they leave. It's, no big deal. You got the power of attorney and you're authorized to act on their behalf. So there's no problem if he gets deported. He's good to go. All right, Sheriff Hardwick viewed the body cam footage before May 24th, 2023, which plainly reveals that Sergeant Kunovich knew that he had zero reasonable suspicion to stop Aguilar Mendez. Yet on May 25th, 2023, Sheriff Hardwick proceeded to blatantly deceive the public in a press conference on the so-called reasonable suspicion with false assertions about trespassing, all in an effort to cover up the unconstitutional search and seizure by Sergeant Kunovich. Sheriff Hardwick knew that his conduct would likely result in Aguilar Mendez's mental and emotional distress based on false assertions and never charged Aguilar Mendez with trespassing, nor any other crime to stop Aguilar Mendez. Let that one sink in a little bit, peeps. Sheriff Hardwick and Sergeant Kunovich acted with the intent to cause Aguilar Mendez emotional distress, or acted with reckless disregard of the probability that Aguilar Mendez would suffer emotional distress, knowing that their conduct was directed at and would be received by Aguilar Mendez. Sergeant Sheriff Hardwick and Sergeant Kunovich's conduct was a substantial factor in causing Aguilar Mendez severe emotional distress for 288 days of unconstitutional confinement. As a direct and proximate result, in doing so, Sheriff Hardwick and Sergeant Kunovich acted with malice and oppression against Aguilar Mendez. As a direct and proximate result of the acts and omissions described herein, Aguilar Mendez suffered humiliation, severe emotional distress, physical harm, loss of earnings, and actual damages that resulted from being illegally stopped, searched, seized, and detained without justification in an amount to be determined by the jury. Punitive damages are available against Sheriff Hardwick and Sergeant Kunovich and are hereby claimed because they were reckless and had callous indifference to the federally protected rights of Aguilar Mendez. Wherefore, plaintiff Virgilio Aguilar Mendez demands judgment against defendants Robert A. Hardwick and the personal representative of the estate of Michael Kunovich. And Yoda is having his 5-minute spaz session. And respectfully requests the entry of an order awarding Aguilar Mendez with 1, nominal compensatory special and punitive damages, 2, reasonable attorney's fees, and 3, costs of the action, and 4, prejudgment interest, and 5, any such other further and different relief as the court deems appropriate. Dated March 12th. Yes, that was before the release happened. Respectfully submitted. There we go. Amended complaint. Dumb. This is the amended complaint. There was a complaint filed before this as well. So this was filed well before. You done in there, Yoda? You're just on one today, aren't you, buddy? No, he's not talking to ghosts. He's just being Yoda. Probably barking at a blanket or something, because that's what he does. All right, that is the federal filing. I would expect that an answer will be filed some point in the near future. And when the answer is filed, I will be more than happy to cover it. So we'll just have to see when the dude chill. Are you done? There you go. Seems like he's done. Good. He's done with his 2-minute hate. All right. Let me bring up this other pagey here in just a minute. Right. All right. So that's the end of the lawsuit. And like I said, the next step will be for all of the people that have been served with the lawsuit, the St. Johns County and the officers and the estate of the deceased officer. They'll be submitting their answer, and we'll see how that goes when it happens. Yeah. Yoda has lots of opinions. Tsunami coming right now. Taiwan is like 1,000 miles away. The reason that Japan was issued a tsunami warning was for the island of Okinawa, which is way closer to Taiwan than mainland Japan is, but it's still part of Japan. So, yeah, tsunami's not a thing here. It's not coming this way, if there was even one. All right. How are we doing here in chat? Just checking out more chatty stuff. Oh no, whatever you need to tell yourself about the ghost. No, the ghost does totally different things. I'm totally cool with my ghost because it's harmless. It's just harmless and fascinating and just does stuff. So yeah, I totally feel safe with my ghost, but that's just Yoda being dumb. He just does it twice a day for no reason. Right. Yeah, no, I haven't forgotten the Florida statute. That's what we're getting to right now. We're gonna read through this because it's lengthy, but it has the potential of being very interesting. All right. It's not a friendly or unfriendly ghost. It's just there. It just does things occasionally. All right, let me see. I probably need to turn off the dark reader for this, but we'll see. Let's bring it on up. This is the statute that deals with law enforcement, correctional, and correctional probation officers' death benefits. What benefits is he going to get? Is his family, his estate going to get as a result of his death? Okay, here we go. Let's embiggen this as much as we can. No, can't really embiggen that either. Ugh. I hate websites that don't automatically adjust their line breaks for size, because nobody can read this, especially if you're on a phone. So we'll just have to do our thing together. Haunted by ex-girlfriends. Oh, heavens. All righty. This is the 2023 Florida statutes, including Special Session C, Title 10, Chapter 112, dealing with probation officers, employees and records, public officers, and employees' general provisions. This is 112.19. It's probably easier to read, like I said, if I take off the dark screen here. That's a little brighter. Much brighter. All right. Here we go. Get the stash properly adjusted. Move this on over here. All right. Law enforcement, correctional, and correctional probation officers' death benefits. As used in this section, the term employer means a state board, commission, department, division, bureau, or agency, or a county, St. Johns County in this case, municipality, or other political subdivision of the state which employs, appoints, or otherwise engages the services of law enforcement, correctional, or correctional probation officers. And this is what an actual statute looks like. So if you've never seen what an actual law or statute, this is it. This is what it looks like. This is what real laws look like. You have your definition section here. Fresh pursuit means the pursuit of a person who has committed or is reasonably suspected of having committed a felony, misdemeanor, traffic infraction, or violation of a county or municipal ordinance. The term does not imply instant pursuit, but pursuit without unreasonable delay. That's interesting. Insurance. Insurance means insurance procured from a stock company or mutual company or association or exchanged authorized to do business as an insurer in this state. Law enforcement, correctional, or correctional probation officer. That means any officer as defined in 943.1014 or employee of the state or any political subdivision of the state, including any law enforcement officer, correctional probation officer, state attorney investigator, that's interesting, public defender investigator, also interesting, or criminal conflict and civil regional counsel investigator. I don't know what that is, but it sounds interesting. Whose duties require such officer or employee to investigate, pursue, apprehend, arrest, transport, or maintain custody of persons who are charged with, suspected of committing, or convicted of a crime. And the term includes any member of a bomb disposal unit whose primary responsibility is the location, handling, and disposal of explosives devices. The term also includes any full-time officer or employee of the state or any political subdivision of the state certified pursuant to Chapter 943, whose duties require such officer to serve process or to attend a session of a circuit or county court as bailiff. All right. So now we're going to get into the meat of what this is. The first part was the definitions. The second part, 2A, the sum of $75,000 must be paid as provided in this section when a law enforcement, correctional, or correctional probation officer, while engaged in the performance of the officer's law enforcement duties, is accidentally killed or receives accidental bodily injury which results in the loss of the officer's life, provided that such killing is not the result of suicide, and the S word again, and that such bodily injury is not intentionally self-inflicted. Okay, so if there's an accidental killing, $75,000. The sum of $75,000 must be paid as provided in this section if a law enforcement, correctional, or correctional probation officer is accidentally killed, as specified in paragraph A, and the death occurred as a result of the officer's response to fresh pursuit, as a result of the officer's response to what is reasonably believed to be an emergency, at the scene of a traffic accident to which the officer has responded, or you don't have to do all of these, it just has to be one of these, or while the officer is enforcing what is reasonably to be believed to be a traffic law or ordinance. That does not apply to this case. None of those seem to apply to the case here at hand. This sum is in addition to any sum provided for in paragraph A. Okay, so paragraph A, which is when a law enforcement officer is accidentally killed or receives bodily injury. Interesting. I'm not saying that this applies, this first part. Let me look at the definition of fresh pursuit. Pursuit of a person who is committed or is reasonably committing or having committed a felony, misdemeanor, traffic. They weren't pursuing him. That's interesting. Steve, thoughts? All right. Check out sub C. Okay, well that's where we are here now. So this sum is in addition to any sum provided for in paragraph A. I was just trying to see if anything in paragraph A or B applied. It doesn't, as far as I can see, nothing in A or B applies. So that moves on to C. It doesn't mean it's one or the other. Even if they get the $75,000, if anything happens below this, it's in addition to the $75,000. If they get the 75. All right. This sum is in addition to any sum provided for in paragraph A. C, if a law enforcement, correction, or correctional probation officer, while engaged in the performance of the officer's law enforcement duties, is unlawfully and intentionally killed or dies as a result of such unlawful or intentional act, the sum of $225,000 must be paid as provided in this section. Okay. So if subsection A and B applied, then he would get the 225 plus the 75. But I don't think that part applies, so we're down just to the 225. Let's look at the elements here. He is a law enforcement officer while engaged in the performance of his duties. Yes, he was engaged in the performance of his duties. He was on duty at the time it happened. Is unlawfully and intentionally killed or dies as a result of such unlawful or intentional act. So if you want your police officer buddy to get lots of benefits, much more benefits than he would normally get, you want him to have died or been killed by an unlawful or intentional act of someone else, namely Aguilar Mendez in this case. That would explain a rush to charge him with something. So they can say, aha, look, what he did led to the death of this officer. So his family gets 225. All right, such payment pursuant to A, B, and C, whether secured by insurance or not, must be made to the beneficiary designated by such law enforcement, correctional, or correctional probation officer in writing, signed by the officer, and delivered to the employer during the officer's lifetime. Okay, so normally you have to you designate a beneficiary, someone who gets the benefit of your benefits. But if no designation is made, then the payments must be paid to the officer's surviving child or children, and to the officer's surviving spouse in equal portions. So the spouse would get 50%, and you would, if he says, I want my spouse to get all of my compensation, then the spouse gets it. If he says, I want my kid or one of my kids or all of my kids to get it, then the kids would get it. What it's saying here is that if there is not a specific person that's designated to get these benefits, they would give 50% to the wife and split the remaining 50% among the kids. And if there is no surviving child or spouse, then to the officer's parent or parents. If a beneficiary is not designated and there is no surviving child, spouse, or parent, then the sum must be paid to the officer's estate. Such payments pursuant to paragraphs A, B, and C are in addition to any workers' compensation or retirement benefit plans and are exempt from the claims and demands of creditors such as law enforcement, correctional, or correctional probation officer. That part's interesting. If a full law enforcement, correctional or correctional probation officer who is certified pursuant to Chapter 943 and employed by the state is killed in the line of duty while the officer is engaged in the performance of law enforcement duties or as a result of an assault against the officer under riot conditions, $10,000 must be paid. That doesn't fall into this category here. G, any political subdivision of the state that employs a full-time law enforcement officer is defined in 943-10-1, or full-time correctional officer is defined here, who is killed in the line of duty on or after July 1st, 1993 as a result of violence inflicted by another person while the officer is engaged in the performance of law enforcement duties or as a result of an assault against the officer under riot conditions shall pay the entire premium of the political subdivision's health insurance plan for the employee's surviving spouse until remarried and for each dependent child of the employee until the child reaches the age of majority or until the end of the calendar year in which the child reaches the age of 25. There's the thing here, dude. Let's see. Suffers a catastrophic injury as defined in the law of duty. Okay, that doesn't health benefits. In order for the officer's spouse, dependent children to be eligible for such insurance, he's liable for the payments unspecified if deemed insured unless. All right, I'm not seeing a minimum payment from the police officers in this. That's interesting. If he just dies while on duty. But the sign pointed toward the funeral. If a full-time law enforcement corrections officer is killed in the line of duty, it doesn't just say dropped dead while on duty. That's interesting. All right. That's interesting. The Florida statutes are regarding law enforcement, correctional, and correctional probation officers' death benefits. Yeah, so Steve Gosney says, you got it. The C provision may be why they were so fired up to charge Virgilio. Because if he just drops dead while on duty, it seems that there's no special benefits that are given to him. But if they say, oh, he was killed by the actions of this person here, while engaged in the performance of his lawful duties, he's unlawfully or intentionally killed or dies as a result of such unlawful action. So they had to tie, in order for his family to get the $225,000, they had to tie his death to the intentional or unlawful act of Aguilar Mendez. Yeah, Jason J., he killed himself in the line of duty. No benefits allowed. That's kind of how I read it. That's how it looks to me. Looks like no particular death benefits. That's interesting. MG Law says sounds like fraud to charge Mendez like they did, knowing the charges were bogus just so the family could get the payout. It's looking like that's why they did it. Cop's family must be forced to pay all the money, but we don't know if they got it. We don't know if they got it. Very interesting. All right. Flux says, Lamau, karma is a literal bitch. Yeah, he wasn't killed. He just died. All right. Well, that's looks like that's about what we've got to talk about. This garish white light. Let me turn the dark reader back on. There we go. Get rid of this. And hi, everybody. It's my handsome face. How you doing? We have Tracy Fagan with the $2. Tell the ghosts Pirates Maritime is on a Monday. Do not miss next Maritime Monday. Next Maritime Monday is going to be way cool. Let me tell you what's coming up here in the next few days. Tomorrow is part 2 of our retro trial coverage of Donald Hartung's case. Also a Florida case. It was from 2020 where he was alleged to have murdered his two half-brothers and his mother in a witchcraft ritualistic manner. We didn't have any ritualistic manners or witches in the first part, in part one. Hopefully they'll come up in part two, but we're waiting. We're waiting to see what happens with that case. We're following that from gavel to gavel because it was a relatively short, but I understand a highly interesting case. So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow on Thursday, the Hartung murder trial. On Friday, we will be going back and we will be revisiting the Tonsil twins, the Laura Owens and Eckert case, because there's been a really, really weird development in that case. Like a really weird development. She got a new lawyer, and this guy looks like he's a goofball too. In his Twitter feed, he called himself the Conor McGregor of lawsuits, or the Conor McGregor of law, or some weird reference. He called himself Conor McGregor, basically. And this motion he made, basically asking for more time to respond. This motion reads like it was written by a 12-year-old, like a legitimate non-lawyer 12-year-old. This lawyer who is passing himself off as the Conor McGregor of lawyers, he uses things like, he said the word all caps with exclamation marks, yikes, in his motion several times. He's used yikes several times. What are just some of the other things off the top of my head? Oh yeah, he is now accusing this woman who sent repeated text messages saying, "Get back with me. If you'll just get back with me, and if you'll just engage with me and have sex with me on an intentional basis. If you'll date me with intention, we can have romantic. I'll let you control what happens with my essentially non-existent pregnancy," and saying, "Oh, you wanted to be inside of me. I want you inside of me. You would know that by how tight I am that you would never. It's a privilege to sleep with me. I don't sleep around because I'm so tight," was kind of the gist of it. And now someone who sends those messages, who repeatedly says, "Let's get together. I really want to continue. I really want to have sex with you. I want to continue our relationship." She's now saying that he graped her. He's now saying that Eckert graped her. Someone who sends those messages is claiming now that she was forced into the situation. And this lawyer actually, he says, "This is what is alleged to have happened, period. #MeToo." Yeah, he actually types out the word hashtag and then does the hash mark you too. And it's honestly one of the weirdest filings I have ever read from a lawyer. Especially a lawyer who calls himself the Conor McGregor of lawyers, or whatever it is. And reading through his Twitter feed is insanity. It's weird. He's bragging about how Eckert's lawyer has only been involved in 2 federal lawsuits. But he's like, "I've been involved in 79 federal lawsuits." Boom. Look, federal court is really no different than normal court. It's just handled by a federal judge because it involves things like people from other states or claims with a high amount of money. You comparing how many federal lawsuits you've been involved in is not the dick swinging contest that this guy thinks it is. It's really dumb. And we're going to be covering that on Friday. Don't miss that. And next Maritime Monday, is something that has been going on. It's been in the works for literally a year, almost a year to the day, as a matter of fact. we will be having on one of my best friends on planet Earth, one of my dear friends, who is a retired lieutenant commander in the Navy. He had extensive experience on submarines. And see, I wanted to do this right around the time that the Titan incident happened, the Titan implosion, because he was on board the USN, the submarine. I can't remember. Suddenly, my brain has gone blank, and I can't remember the designation. I believe it's SSN. I believe is the designation for submarines. He was on board the United States Navy submarine, the San Francisco, when it was involved in an underwater accident that left them in a very, very precarious situation and resulted in the death of one of the crew. And it's a frightening, amazing story. He will be on to talk about that experience, to give us the breakdown of what actually happened live from inside that submarine, what he actually experienced as a submariner inside the submarine when the San Francisco hit something underwater. It's a fascinating story, and he can finally talk about it because he's retired, and he's finally now has time. So don't miss that. We've never had a Maritime Monday where we've talked to someone who has been involved in an actual disaster, an underwater submarine accident. He's one of my best friends on earth, and I'm so glad that we can have him on and he can talk about it. So don't miss that. Underwater mountain, yeah, essentially. It's a fascinating story, and we'll let you hear firsthand what it's like to be in a situation like the Kursk, or the Titan for a millisecond anyway, when things go wrong. And next Tuesday, we'll probably be back to more Hales. There's some craziness going on in the Hales case. We're going to be doing some more Hales, of course. So that's what's going to come up for the next week or so. Right. That's it. Let's shut this bad boy down, and you get out and enjoy your Wednesday. Or if you're here on my side of the planet, go to sleep. Let's see if we've got everything out of the way here. Legal advice. Did you get that tam o' shanter from LL Bean? My flat cap is from the Aron Sweater Market. I get all of my I have like my flat caps are from the Aron Sweater Market, and I also have some amazing gloves and hats and knit caps, and two amazing. I don't know if you've seen me wearing the big green sweater. I got that from the Aron Sweater Market. So basically everything I get is from my clothes are from LL Bean, flat caps and sweaters are from the Aron Sweater Market in Ireland, and my cowboy hats are from Miller Hat. That's kind of the extent of my fashion. So the Aron Sweater Market is where I get it. Bald by choice, baby. I just shaved it about an hour before the stream here too. So that's a fresh shave. All right, folks, let's see where we can send you. Where are we going to send you off to? How many people do we have here? Oh, we have to do our poll. We got 286 people sticking around for some reason, 261 likes. And let's see, our poll ended up, the question was, should Mendez sue the estate of the deceased cop? 15% of you said no, he shouldn't sue anybody. 1 in 4 of you, 25%, said no, it's not fair to the cop's family. And 60% of you said yes, dead or alive, the cop must pay. Tug Sim says the Aron Sweater Market is pronounced Aron. Okay, there you go. That's yes. The Aron seems to be pronounced Aron. Thank you very much. Andrew Brink is about to go live with day 4 of the Zachariah Anderson trial. Yes, he is. We've been sending people there the last few days. I just want to see if there's somewhere else to send people that's reasonably entertaining. Let me see. Nick is here. Let's see. I'm just seeing who's popping up real quick. Give me a couple seconds. Live. We're live now, so let's go into the details. Customization. Redirect. Boop. Uncivil, future conflict, Mystery Science Theater, Broken Baker, Speak the Truth. I thought Nick was live. Nicholas. Yes, Nick Starro he's doing the Delphi case. Nick and Mo react to Jennifer Coffenduffer, retired FBI agent. Let's go. We haven't rated Nick for a long time. Let's go raid Nick Starro, who's talking about Agent Jennifer Coffenduffer in the Delphi murders case. Okay, everybody, stop with the Ron stuff. All right, let's go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, mods, for being here. Thank you, chat, for being here. Thank you for keeping us engaged. Deeply, deeply appreciate all of you for your support, the memberships, the super chats. Thank you for just keeping us entertained, and thank you for not derailing us as badly as we got derailed last time we talked about this subject. We'll see you tomorrow for part 2 of the witchcraft ritual murder trial of Mr. Hartung from Florida. Go tell Nick hi. Go tell Mo hi. Tell Nick and Mo hi. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Have a good night, day, morning, afternoon, whatever.